When you think about bees, the first thing that probably comes to mind is honey. Golden, sweet, spread across warm toast or stirred into a cup of tea. Others might think about pollination, the invisible work that helps produce nearly 1/3 of the food we eat. But hidden inside every healthy beehive is another remarkable creation, one that doesn't end up in your breakfast. Instead, it may already be sitting in your bathroom cabinet, inside your favorite lip balm, your hand cream, your furniture polish, the candle glowing on your dining table, or even the wrapping keeping your sandwich fresh. That remarkable material is beeswax. At first glance, it seems almost impossible. How can an insect weighing less than a paperclip produce enough wax to build entire cities inside a hive? How do billions of tiny workers create one of nature's most versatile materials? And why has something made by bees remained valuable for thousands of years, surviving empires, revolutions, and the rise of modern chemistry? The story begins long before humans harvest a single block of wax. It begins inside a colony where every bee has a job, and every day follows an extraordinary rhythm. A healthy honeybee colony is one of the most organized societies on Earth. During the busiest months of spring and summer, a single hive may contain 60,000 bees, sometimes even more. But despite those incredible numbers, there is no confusion, no chaos. Every bee understands its purpose. At the center of the colony lives the queen. She isn't the ruler people often imagine. She doesn't command workers or give orders. Her primary responsibility is far simpler. She lays eggs. Thousands of them. On a productive summer day, a healthy queen can lay more than 2,000 eggs. Almost her own body weight every 24 hours. Around her work, tens of thousands of female worker bees. These workers do everything. They clean, they feed larvae, they collect nectar, guard the entrance, regulate the hive's temperature, build honeycomb, and eventually, produce the wax that makes the entire colony possible. What's fascinating is that not every worker bee can make wax. Only young workers possess that remarkable ability, usually between 12 and 20 days after emerging as adults. At this stage in life, special wax glands beneath their abdomen become highly active. These glands are unlike anything found in larger animals. They don't simply secrete liquid wax. Instead, they produce tiny, paper-thin scales, each one no larger than the head of a pin. If you've ever seen fresh beeswax before it enters a honeycomb, it doesn't look yellow at all. Fresh wax is almost transparent, tiny white flakes that shimmer like little pieces of glass. The familiar golden color develops later as the wax absorbs pollen, propolis, and natural pigments inside the hive. But creating those delicate flakes comes at an enormous cost. Bees cannot simply manufacture wax from air. They need fuel. Lots of it. That fuel is honey. Worker bees consume large quantities of honey before their wax glands begin producing scales. Inside their tiny bodies, sugars from the honey are transformed into wax through an incredibly complex biological process that scientists are still studying today. The efficiency is astonishing. Yet it is also expensive. Researchers estimate that bees consume roughly 6 to 8 pounds of honey to produce just 1 pound of beeswax. Think about that for a moment. Honey itself requires thousands upon thousands of flower visits. Now imagine sacrificing several pounds of that precious food, simply to build the walls of your home. That's exactly what bees do. Because without wax, there is no hive. Without a hive, there is no colony. When a worker bee finishes producing several wax scales, another fascinating process begins. She bends her abdomen forward. Using specialized bristles on her legs, she carefully removes each tiny wax flake from beneath her body. The flakes are still brittle, almost like thin chips of ice. So the bee begins chewing them, again and again, mixing them with saliva, natural enzymes, and a little warmth from her own body. Slowly, the hard flakes soften into something resembling clay, flexible. Smooth, easy to shape. Only then can construction begin. If you could shrink yourself to the size of a honeybee and step inside the hive, the scene would look less like insects wandering randomly, and more like thousands of skilled builders working together on the world's busiest construction site. Some bees arrive carrying fresh wax. Others press softened wax into place. Another group measures angles with astonishing precision. Several reinforce completed sections. Meanwhile, nectar collectors continue arriving from nearby flowers, while nurse bees feed developing larvae only inches away. Everything happens simultaneously. Every minute, every hour, every day. The most famous result of all this work is the honeycomb. Its perfect rows of hexagonal cells have fascinated mathematicians, engineers, and architects for centuries. Why hexagons? Why not circles? Squares? Triangles? The answer reveals just how efficient nature can be. Imagine trying to fill a flat surface using circles. Small gaps always remain between them. Squares remove those gaps but require more building material for the same storage space. Triangles work, but also require longer walls. Hexagons accomplish something remarkable. They eliminate empty space while using less wax than almost any other repeating shape. Maximum storage. Minimum building material. Exactly the kind of efficiency a colony dependent on precious wax desperately needs. Scientists have admired this design for generations. Engineers have copied it for aircraft panels, spacecraft, bridges, packaging materials, even modern architecture. One tiny insect solved a structural problem humans continue studying today. Each honeycomb cell serves multiple purposes throughout its lifetime. At first, it may become a nursery. The queen lays an egg. Worker bees feed the developing larva. Weeks later, the young bee emerges. That same cell is cleaned immediately. Perhaps next it stores pollen. Later, fresh nectar. Eventually, ripened honey. Some cells may be reused dozens of times before finally wearing out. Nothing inside the hive goes to waste. Not space, not food, not effort. Temperature also plays an extraordinary role. Wax becomes easier to shape when warm. Too cold, and it becomes brittle. Too hot, and it softens excessively. Worker bees constantly regulate the hive's internal temperature, maintaining it close to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 35 degrees Celsius. Thousands of bees work together to achieve this. During hot weather, some fan their wings continuously to circulate cool air. Others collect tiny droplets of water and spread them throughout the hive. As the water evaporates, it cools the colony much like perspiration cools human skin. During colder weather, workers gather tightly together. Their wing muscles vibrate rapidly without flying, generating heat. The result is one of nature's most impressive climate control systems, all designed partly to protect delicate wax structures. Because if the wax fails, everything else fails with it. This extraordinary process repeats itself millions of times throughout a single season. One tiny wax scale, then another, and another, until thousands of nearly invisible flakes become an entire city built from sunlight and flowers. It's easy to admire honey because we can taste it. Beeswax often goes unnoticed. Yet without beeswax, honey couldn't exist. There would be nowhere to store it. No nursery for young bees. No shelter protecting the colony through winter. Wax is the invisible foundation supporting every other achievement inside the hive. And eventually, humans noticed. Long before laboratories, long before factories, long before synthetic materials filled store shelves, people discovered this remarkable natural substance and realized it possessed qualities unlike anything else found in nature. It resisted water, burned slowly, melted at surprisingly useful temperatures, protected delicate surfaces, preserved valuable objects, held pleasant aromas, could be softened, reshaped, then hardened again. Few natural materials offered so many possibilities. ancient civilizations quickly recognized its value. They didn't fully understand how bees produced it, but they certainly understood what it could do. Soon, beeswax became something far greater than a building material for insects. It became one of humanity's oldest industrial materials, a product that traveled trade routes, filled temples, protected kings, lit sacred ceremonies, and eventually found its way into countless homes across the world. Before we continue, I'd love to hear from you. Did you know that bees actually eat honey to produce wax? Or did you think beeswax simply appeared inside the hive? Let me know in the comments below. I read every comment, and I'd love to hear what surprised you most. By the time summer reaches its peak, a healthy beehive has become an incredible storehouse of life. Thousands of bees move through narrow passageways. Some return from nearby flowers carrying bright yellow pollen packed onto their legs. Others arrive heavy with nectar collected from fields, orchards, and forests, sometimes several miles away. Inside the hive, nurse bees care for developing larvae. Guard bees patrol the entrance. Builders continue repairing damaged comb. Every bee has a responsibility, and hidden among all that activity is something humans have valued for thousands of years: the beeswax itself. But here's something many people don't realize. Beekeepers don't harvest beeswax by tearing apart an entire hive. If they did, the colony would spend enormous amounts of energy rebuilding instead of producing honey and raising young bees. Modern beekeeping is built on cooperation rather than destruction. The goal isn't to take everything. It's to collect what the bees can spare while allowing the colony to remain healthy. That process begins with honey. Inside every honeycomb cell filled with ripe honey is a tiny wax lid. Beekeepers call these cappings. They're incredibly thin, barely thicker than a sheet of paper, yet they're remarkably effective. Once bees have reduced the nectar's moisture content to the perfect level, they seal each cell with a fresh layer of wax. That tiny cap protects the honey from moisture, insects, and contamination. It also tells the beekeeper something important. The honey is ready. Harvest season has arrived. When the beekeeper opens the hive, the first thing they usually notice is the smell. Warm honey, fresh wax, propolis, wood, flowers. Thousands of tiny scents blended into one unmistakable aroma. It's unlike anything found in a supermarket jar, because inside the hive, everything is alive. Before removing any honey frames, the beekeeper gently calms the colony using cool smoke. This practice has existed for centuries. Contrary to popular belief, the smoke doesn't put bees to sleep. Instead, it interrupts their alarm signals. The bees begin consuming honey in preparation for what they instinctively believe could become a forest fire. Busy filling themselves with honey, they become far less defensive. It gives both the bees and the beekeeper a calmer experience. With careful movements, wooden frames covered in capped honeycomb are lifted from the hive. Each frame is surprisingly heavy, sometimes weighing several kilograms when completely filled. At this stage, the honey remains locked safely behind thousands upon thousands of tiny wax seals. Before the honey can be extracted, those seals must be removed. This is where the first harvest of beeswax begins. Using a long heated knife or a specialized uncapping fork, the beekeeper gently slices away the thin wax cappings from the surface of the honeycomb. The motion looks almost effortless, like shaving delicate curls from a block of wood. Those pale golden shavings fall into a collection tray below. Most people watching focus on the honey that will soon flow from the comb. Experienced beekeepers often smile for another reason. They know those little wax scraps are incredibly valuable. Once the cappings have been removed, the frames are placed inside a honey extractor. This machine works much like a giant salad spinner. Instead of crushing the honeycomb, the extractor spins the frames rapidly. Centrifugal force pulls the honey from the cells while leaving most of the wax structure intact. The empty comb can then be returned to the hive. For the bees, this is a tremendous advantage. Instead of spending weeks rebuilding fresh honeycomb from scratch, They simply refill the existing cells with new nectar. Remember how much honeybees must consume to create fresh wax. Every piece of comb that can be reused saves the colony enormous effort. Nature rarely wastes energy. Neither do experienced beekeepers. Meanwhile, the pile of wax cappings collected during uncapping begins its own journey. Fresh cappings are beautiful, soft, flexible, almost creamy in color. They smell intensely of flowers because traces of honey remain attached. If you were to pick up a handful, it would feel warm and slightly sticky. But it isn't ready for candles or cosmetics just yet. First, it must be cleaned. Raw beeswax contains more than wax alone. Tiny grains of pollen, drops of honey, bits of propolis, occasional wood fragments, sometimes even tiny pieces of bee cocoon from older comb. Everything must be separated. The traditional method remains surprisingly simple. The wax is gently heated until it melts. Beeswax melts at around 144 to 147 degrees Fahrenheit, or approximately 62 to 64 degrees Celsius. That's warm enough to liquefy the wax, yet cool enough to avoid damaging many of its natural qualities. As the wax melts, heavier impurities sink toward the bottom. Lighter materials float. The liquid wax is then carefully poured through fine filters. Sometimes cloth, sometimes metal mesh, sometimes specialized industrial filters. Each pass removes additional impurities. When the wax cools again, something remarkable happens. It hardens into smooth golden blocks, dense, clean, ready for countless new purposes. Not all beeswax looks the same. Freshly filtered wax usually has a rich golden yellow color. Its scent is unmistakable, warm, sweet, almost like sunshine trapped inside a solid block. If additional filtering removes more pigments, the wax becomes lighter, eventually nearly white. White beeswax is especially popular in cosmetics because manufacturers often prefer a neutral appearance. Natural yellow beeswax remains popular for candles and handcrafted products because many people appreciate its beautiful color and distinctive fragrance. The remarkable thing is that no artificial perfume created that scent. It comes entirely from flowers visited by bees. In many ways, a block of beeswax is compressed springtime, stored forever. Humans discovered its usefulness astonishingly early. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence suggesting beeswax was already being used thousands of years ago. The ancient Egyptians prized it greatly. They incorporated beeswax into mummification rituals, believing it helped protect bodies prepared for the afterlife. They also used it to waterproof containers, seal wooden objects, create ceremonial figures. Even the pharaohs recognized its value. Further north, the ancient Greeks found different uses. Writers described beeswax as an important ingredient in medicine. Artists mixed pigments into melted wax to create paintings using a technique known as encaustic painting. Unlike ordinary paint, these wax-based artworks proved remarkably durable. Some survive today after nearly 2,000 years. The Romans expanded beeswax use even further. Official documents were often written on wooden tablets coated with beeswax. Using a pointed stylus, a person could scratch letters into the surface. If mistakes appeared, the wax could simply be smoothed flat and used again. Imagine carrying a reusable notebook nearly 2,000 years before paper became common. Beeswax made it possible. As centuries passed, another use became especially important: candles. Today, candles often exist for decoration. Before electricity, they represented something far more essential: light itself. Not all candles were equal. Many ordinary families relied on tallow candles made from animal fat. They were inexpensive, but they smoked heavily, produced unpleasant odors, and often burned unevenly. Beeswax candles were entirely different. Their flame burned brighter, cleaner, longer. Their natural fragrance filled churches, castles, and important homes with a subtle sweetness rather than the smell of burning fat. Because beeswax was expensive, It became associated with wealth, royalty, and religious ceremonies. In medieval Europe, many churches specifically reserved beeswax candles for sacred services. Light itself became symbolic, pure, clean, beautiful. Centuries later, beeswax remains highly valued in candle making, not simply because of tradition, but because its properties remain genuinely impressive. Beeswax burns slowly, produces very little smoke, and naturally emits a warm golden light many people find relaxing. The same characteristics that impressed medieval craftsmen continue attracting modern consumers. Yet candles represent only one chapter in beeswax's story. Walk into almost any pharmacy or cosmetic store today. You'll find beeswax everywhere. Lip balms, hand creams, face lotions, healing salves. Why? Because beeswax performs several useful jobs at once. It thickens products naturally, helps lock moisture into the skin, creates a protective barrier against dry air, provides stability without relying entirely on synthetic ingredients. Unlike some petroleum-based waxes, beeswax originated from flowers. Many consumers appreciate that connection to nature. The food industry discovered another clever application: reusable beeswax wraps. By coating cotton fabric with beeswax, tree resin, and natural oils, manufacturers created flexible food coverings that replace disposable plastic wrap. Warm them slightly using your hands. They soften. Wrap them around fruit, sandwiches, or bowls. As they cool, they hold their shape. Wash them gently. Use them again. Simple, reusable, biodegradable. An ancient material solving a thoroughly modern problem. Perhaps that's what makes beeswax so remarkable. Despite thousands of years of scientific progress, we still haven't found another material that combines all of its qualities quite the same way. Natural, renewable, pleasant smelling, water resistant, food safe, easy to shape, beautiful to look at, and created entirely by insects working together inside one extraordinary colony. The journey from flower, to honey, to wax, to human hands may seem almost magical, yet it happens every single spring, quietly, patiently, exactly as it has for millions of years. Before we continue, I'd love to hear from you. What surprised you the most about beeswax? The fact that bees eat 6 to 8 pounds of honey to make just 1 pound of wax, or that ancient civilizations were already using it thousands of years ago? Let me know in the comments below. I always enjoy reading your thoughts. Once beeswax leaves the hive, its journey is only beginning. A single block of purified beeswax may eventually be divided into hundreds of different products, many of which you'll use without ever realizing where they came from. Take a look inside your bathroom cabinet. That tube of lip balm you reach for during winter? There's a good chance beeswax is one of its main ingredients. It isn't there simply because it's natural. It serves an important purpose. When applied to the lips, beeswax forms a thin protective barrier that helps reduce moisture loss while still allowing the skin to breathe. Combined with ingredients like shea butter, coconut oil, cocoa butter, or vitamin E, it gives lip balm its smooth texture and helps it stay solid even on a warm summer day. The same thing happens with many lotions, creams, and healing ointments. Beeswax acts as a natural thickener while helping the product remain stable over time. Instead of separating into layers, the ingredients stay blended together. At the same time, beeswax helps lock moisture into the skin, which is why it's commonly found in products designed for dry hands, cracked heels, and sensitive skin. Even pharmaceutical companies continue to use beeswax in certain ointments and medicinal creams because of its stability and gentle nature. But beeswax doesn't stop in the world of cosmetics. Walk into a woodworking shop and you'll probably find it there as well. For centuries, craftsmen have mixed beeswax with natural oils to create furniture polish. The wax fills tiny scratches in the wood while leaving behind a soft protective finish that enhances the grain instead of hiding it. Antique furniture collectors still prefer traditional beeswax polish because it protects old wood without creating the thick plastic-like coating that many modern finishes produce. Musicians know another secret. Violins, cellos, guitars, and even some pianos often benefit from products containing beeswax. It helps protect wooden surfaces, conditions certain parts of instruments, and provides a gentle finish that preserves their natural appearance. Leather workers have relied on beeswax for generations too. Mixed into leather conditioners, it helps repel water while keeping boots, belts, bags, and saddles flexible. Before synthetic waterproofing products existed, beeswax was one of the best natural defenses against rain and moisture. Even the food industry continues finding new uses for it. Some cheeses are coated with beeswax to protect them during aging. Certain fruits receive an edible wax coating to help reduce moisture loss during transportation. Reusable beeswax food wraps have become increasingly popular as people look for alternatives to disposable plastic wrap. One of the most surprising places beeswax appears is in the art world. Artists still practice encaustic painting, an ancient technique dating back more than 2,000 years. Pigments are mixed directly into molten beeswax, creating paintings with incredible depth and texture. Some masterpieces created using this method have survived for centuries with remarkably vibrant colors, proving just how durable this simple natural material can be. Perhaps the most fascinating thing about beeswax is that despite all our modern technology, scientists have never created a perfect replacement for it. Synthetic waxes may be cheaper. Plant-based waxes may work better for certain applications. Paraffin may be easier to mass-produce, but none combine all the qualities of beeswax in quite the same way. It's naturally water-resistant, biodegradable, pleasantly scented, flexible when warm, strong when cool, safe for skin, food-friendly, renewable, and produced entirely through one of nature's most extraordinary partnerships between flowers and bees. Every block of beeswax represents millions of flower visits, thousands of hours of flight, countless pounds of honey consumed, and the coordinated effort of an entire colony working together toward a common goal. It's easy to look at a candle or a stick of lip balm and see only the finished product. But hidden inside that small object is one of nature's greatest engineering achievements. Tiny wax scales, no larger than grains of rice, carefully shaped by young worker bees into perfect hexagonal structures, before eventually finding their way into homes all around the world. The next time you light a beeswax candle, notice how cleanly it burns. The next time you apply lip balm, remember that its smooth texture began inside a hive built by insects weighing less than a single gram. And the next time you hear the gentle buzz of honeybees moving through a garden, remember they aren't only making honey. They're producing one of the oldest, most sustainable, and most remarkable natural materials humanity has ever known. For thousands of years, beeswax has quietly connected nature with everyday life. From ancient Egyptian temples to Roman writing tablets, from medieval cathedrals glowing with candlelight to the lip balm in your pocket today, its story continues with every new hive built each spring. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the remarkable world of beeswax. If you enjoyed learning how billions of bees create the wax found in everyday products, let us know in the comments. Which beeswax product surprised you the most? Candles, cosmetics, furniture polish, or something else? Your suggestions might inspire our next video. And if you enjoy discovering the hidden history behind the simple things we use every day, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for the next story.